Henry Knott, welcome to the Preconstruction Podcast.
Thank you, sir. Glad to be here.
You look very comfortable in your hotel room in Dallas, Texas.
I am very comfortable as can be in a hotel room. But yes, it's nice. Got here last night, so presenting this afternoon, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm going to get into that as well. So if anybody doesn't know, Henry's actually presenting at Advancing Construction this year, of course, another one of Hanson Wade's brilliant conferences. But Henry, for anybody who doesn't know the beautiful face, Precon Exec at Southland Industries, give us an idea of what that role entails.
Yeah. So as a pre-construction executive, I'm involved in one getting work for our company, along with other folks that I work with alongside of. And so we have a small group that really tries to attempt to one to touch our clients, understand what's out there in the market, what our general contractor is looking at, what's important to our owners in regards to what they're trying to build, the approach they're trying to take, how we can be competitive. And we take our relationships and essentially are attempting to figure out the best approach to solve their problems. Obviously, looking at budget and cost, efficiencies, productivities, really trying to understand how we set ourselves apart when it comes to approaching work. But ultimately, our job is to win a job, and essentially feed our company of a lot of folks we have here working in our division in Northern California. That is really our ultimate job, is to win work, and we do that by showcasing what differentiates us from our competitors. Again, from a price standpoint, as well as approach standpoint, implementing lean, executing lean types of projects, and similar things like that. So it's a very challenging job, but I get to bring in some of the experiences that I've had from my field days, and so it's exciting.
Brilliant. I love it. You're right as well. If the pre-con team doesn't function, the company doesn't eat. I love it. And Southland Industries specialty contractor, just give us a quick overview of what you guys do.
Yeah, so we are a full service mechanical contractor, uh, over 6,000 people nationwide. We work in the area of mechanical, plumbing, piping, service, engineering, controls, and energy. And so we pride ourselves on being one of the top privately held contractors in the nation, and been in existence, having our 75th anniversary this year. And so I've been here for about almost 18 years now. And so really one of the best companies I've ever worked for. It's like a family, and very progressive thinking leadership, and just forging our way to become the top in the country, and so great people, great teams, very smart individuals and teams, and just very happy to be here for the years I've had my time here. It's been a wonderful experience.
Love it, Henry. That's lovely context now into what we're going to get into. So a lot of the listeners will be from owners, from the subcontractors, from the general contractors on the pre-con and estimating side. So that gives us an idea of what we're going to get through. Let's go back to the very beginning, Henry. Vocational school, sheet metal worker, journey person. Was it always going to be construction for you?
Definitely not. So I had a father that was a sheet metal worker, and I was about to graduate from high school and had a plan on becoming an engineer or something. Definitely wasn't construction, and I think he'd always asked me about it, and I kind of turned away and had my own thing going on. And finally, he posed a question that, in a way, that I couldn't turn it away. It was, hey, just take the test and see what happens. If you don't like it, don't do it. So it made sense, and it was easy to say, okay, I can at least do that. Took the test, and long story short, obviously got into the trade. I had to quit my job, and I was going to JC at the time, and life changed overnight, and so it definitely wasn't my plan A, probably your plan B. And ultimately,
Good honesty.
it worked out, and it was tough. It was not an easy journey for sure, but it worked out obviously for me.
Brilliant. Well, listen, we're glad to have you and lucky to have you too. 14 years then as general foreman in the sheet mill company, Therma. And then you made the transition over to Southland Industries. How how enjoyable was it coming from the trades? It's something that we're talking about, and we need more people from the trades. We need more people from the trades into the C-suite, but also the pre-construction teams, just for diversity, and also for the different way of thinking. Because if you've come from the trades, you've come from a foreman, you know exactly how the project goes together. So if you have that knowledge and experience and bring it into pre-construction, only good things happen.
Yeah, it's just the practicality, and understanding some of the nuances that you don't really understand if you haven't been out there in the field installing work. And it goes both ways. There's much you can learn from the folks who've been in operations, but from my perspective of really understanding how to put the pieces together, understanding the dynamic teams that we have, that are a part of our internal team, as well as the external teams that work alongside of us, and how important they are. And sometimes it's easy to overlook those things, or you may not even think you're overlooking because you just don't have the peripheral to understand what a different trade, how it impacts your scope of work and your ability to be productive. So bringing in those aspects, talking about approach, as a superintendent, you would go to interviews, and they really want to understand from that group of people, how are you going to execute my job? What is the approach you're going to take? And they don't want to hear from the PM. They don't want to hear from even the general superintendent. They want to hear from the folks who are going to be on the job, who understand these are the people I'm going to see for the next 6 months to 3 years. Tell me how you're going to execute. And so being able to bring that kind of forethought to the table is really important. And we're trying to get more of our field leadership and those who are, aspiring to become that, to understand how important they are, and to think about, hey, what do you do after 10 to 15 years in the trade? There's something else that you can do. Unless you want to stay working in the field, it's fine, but there's some opportunities there that probably weren't necessarily visible to people back then. The opportunities didn't present themselves, and now they are. And so we're trying to help our people really understand there's life after a field worker, and you can take your valuable skill sets and apply them somewhere else in the same company, but bring a lot of value that just doesn't come because you went to a classroom. It really comes from your experience of years of being in the field and installing work and having your own horror stories of and lessons learned of things that you will never do again, but you can bring that value to your job.
Brilliant. And Henry, was it when you were a general superintendent and someone came to you and said, listen, Henry, I think there's an opportunity here within the pre-construction team. What was your thoughts, or had you always got a keen eye on what was going on in pre-construction and thought, you know what, my skill set could lie in there?
Yeah, I wish that I could say that were true. It was definitely not that. It was meaning kind of me minding my own business, doing my job, knowing that there was something else for me and something else I wanted to do. I can't tell you what I thought it was going to be. The next natural step for a superintendent would have been a construction manager, essentially overseeing all the trades in the shop and field. But that wasn't what I desired. I just didn't know what it was, but I knew there was something else because I kind of fit into a different kind of box. I did a lot of public speaking because of my involvement with Lean Construction and our involvement as a company. And so I didn't know what the next natural step was going to be, but I was able to find my way. And when I was asked, it was something that, hey, what is that? And what is the actual role? And understanding, can I do this? And what does it look like for the other person who's been doing it? It's going to be different because I have a set of different skills and background. Is that going to apply? So all those kind of questions in my head running through, and ultimately it worked out. And even that was a rough patch for a while, and just kind of learning something new. But that was a great part of the challenge, is something new was put in front of me to just kind of refresh me in many ways. So that was a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're going to get into it now because you're actually in Dallas and you're going to be speaking about just this with a colleague of yours from Southland Industries. And the topic is, how do we transition people from the field and make them estimators or make them pre-construction professionals? And from your experience now, having gone through it, what are the skill sets that you're looking for, and how do you think Southland Industries will go about doing something like that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. And yeah, so my colleague, Wendy Montgomery, who's a senior manager over talent acquisition here, is teaming up with me. And so she comes from the HR kind of part of our company. And so it's kind of a match. We've worked together really well in the past, and how we kind of bounce off each other, and what are some of the essential criteria and fundamentals that we have versus what specific practical skills that we need to have, whether it's from the field or wherever, what have you. And so we're going to focus on just the game plan. And one, in my presentation, I want to really talk about being curious. I think it's one thing to do your job every day, and you do it many times blindfolded at some point, and you can become so complacent in your role. It's really important to recognize the folks who are curious, who want more, and are looking to grow. And so that's one of the first, prerequisites, in my opinion, is to find people who actually desire to do more on their job than just what they do every day. And obviously the basics of just understanding systems, understanding just how we execute the work in our specific trades. And we can teach people all the computer skills that they need to have. It's really bringing that knowledge and that experience that they have. Again, most of them learn from hard lessons and things that went wrong, and what they would never do again. They make the best people in regards to this kind of role. So we're looking to build people that just have an aspiration to do more, and a desire to grow and to contribute in a very significant way, and over time develop those skills that they may not have, but the one that we can't teach them is the years of experience that they've had. And so that's really the first approach. Is kind of like going fishing and looking for people that the bait and the hook is really about that curiosity, that those folks who just want to do more, and see themselves being a part of something bigger than themselves than just going to do the same thing every day. They're hungry, and that's one of the first prerequisites, because that person is looking to grow, and you can try to place them in this different role, and see how they do, and give them a chance to get some exposure. And they may like it, they may not, but it gives them a chance, one, to say, hey, this company sees me, sees my value, and is willing to take this risk and invest in me. And that's really the important part, is that, and I think we all appreciate that when someone recognizes us, and even if it doesn't work out, it's like, hey, there's an acknowledgement that there's something about this individual and their set of skills that we want to try to groom and help develop them.
Yeah, brilliant. And of course, what a great example. I mean, your example is the perfect example. Sheet metal worker who is now pre-con exec, and can train them, so, and can kind of understand what sort of challenges they're going to go through, and almost what sort of kind of doubts that they're going to have in their mind, because it is different. Pre-construction is different. I mean, in operations, you're touching maybe 1-2 projects every year or every 2 years, whereas pre-construction, you can touch 2-3 projects within 2 weeks. It's definitely a higher paced environment. How did you cope with that at the very beginning when you made the switch?
Yeah, it was tough. I felt like an apprentice all over again. But we had some great people. One gentleman, I have to give him some kudos. His name is Ian McLaren. He was the gentleman that really oversaw this department for 17 years or so, and we almost came to Southland at the same time. And I was a general superintendent, and then he was in his role, and so he had his way of doing things, and he was very successful in his role. He had done the role over 40 years from other firms total. And so for about 4 years, I got a chance to sit under Ian and learn how he did things, understand how Southland was going to do things, understand how I was going to do things, and some of the transition. And so it was not an easy pathway. It's a guy going into a role that I was not accustomed to, and it was very different. But you got exposure to, like you say, many projects at once, and understanding how do we check the boxes here, and really, again, set ourselves apart to win a job. And that was really the most important thing, was no matter what, the goal was win the work. And so no matter what you did, if you didn't win the work, you lost, And so that's how you're graded, in a sense, and so it was understanding some of the methodologies, some of the nuances of that part of our business, understanding our customers, understanding how we, utilize relationships that we do have to get information that we need, to put ourselves in the best position, to not just be a low number. It was about really understanding how we bring a package that says this team, with the experience, with the cost being in the right place, but really understanding how we're going to execute and understanding the job. And those are the things that we had to distinguish ourselves with. And that's rallying a whole team of people that are going to interview for a project, and you have to get them all ready and prepared and give them the background and who's our competition and who are the people we need to make sure that, these are the decision makers and all these things that you have to factor in to get a job. And it's lots of moving parts, and it's a lot of work. And it comes down to the team, the interview, their proposal, and submission, and then you're waiting to see what happens, and so it's one of those deals where totally different kind of perspective from a person that was out, in the field and managing teams that install the work. This part of this, how we win the work, really opened my eyes to the, kind of a full spectrum of what our business is about.
Brilliant. Love it. And then let's dive into that a little bit more now, winning the work, because we know it's a busy time within construction in the US. I imagine with the election, the election over, the interest rates coming down, 2025 is going to be extremely busy. What does Southland Industries, if you can kind of think about the people listening to this now, the VPs, the director of estimating and pre-construction within general contractors, what can they do better to look after the subs, especially the mechanical contractors? Because I listen to some of these projects now, the data centers, the life sciences projects, the mechanical and electrical package within these projects are absolutely astronomical. They're huge. They're getting more complex, and the mechanical side especially is getting more complex. But what can the GCs do better to make your life easier?
Yeah, I absolutely love that question, and I always ask that question in respect to our scope to our GCs about what we can do better to make their lives easier, and then they'll throw that back at us. So it's great. So love the question. It really comes down to one thing, well, several things, but I'll start with this, is understanding that when we are hired as the contractor that's going to do this work, understanding that you hired us because we're the expert. We actually understand the schedule probably better than you when it comes to our scope of work. And the one thing many times that you don't get with good partnerships, when you don't have those good partnerships, is there's lack of communication and understanding how are we going to take this master schedule with 1,000 line items and make it real, and how are we going to divide the right things when it comes to scope and listening to us in regards to how we can save costs, save time without reducing quality. And that trust factor is really important. So I think we have some great relationships with our general contractors. And I think what others out in the industry would love to see is that we build relationships with folks and we build a trust so that when we are discussing a plan, when we are executing a schedule, when we are doing pool planning, and really having the right people in the room, that we develop that trust. And I've had my two best projects that I've had in my career, unfortunately, happened at the very end of me being a superintendent after almost 20 plus years. And they both were, the common denominator was having a general contractor and an owner that really came together as one unit and worked together as a team from the beginning to the end. Not saying that was made it everything easy and perfect, but it created transparent conversations and dealing with real issues in real time and solving problems as a unit. So it really comes down to some of those, what people call the soft skills and the emotional intelligence and having empathy, all these words that we don't use typically in construction, but how important and critical they are for us to execute at a high level is that trust. And so I would say that obviously you got to have all the other things, right? You got to have a budget that makes sense. You got to understand the scope. You got to have the right team and players that are going to execute the job. But you also then have to have an ability to come together and really kind of divide that schedule up and really understand where the issues are and how we can mitigate those issues. And doing that stuff really early is really critical. So I would say the trust, the superintendents that they have on the GC side that really want to work with us and not dictate what we're going to do, really understand that we're on their team. We want this job to be successful as much as anyone else. And typically, not one trade is going to win while the others are losing. It's all of us are either losing or all winning. And so, how do we figure out how to make this a collective effort that's going to be successful and positive? And it's going to start with our ability to communicate, identify the real issues in real time, be able to say what you need to say without fear of retribution, come with respect to the job, and know that, hey, we're all trying to get to that same place and make money and hopefully have a harmonious kind of job where people can just get along and be productive and be safe, and be looking for the next one.
Love it, love it. And you funny you said about the trust and the communication, and essentially that's where within pre-construction, that's where it starts, and that's where the trust starts, that's where the communication starts, and then you're hoping that that just continues throughout the project. But within yourself now at Southland Industries, pre-construction exec, do you prefer, and this is kind of a question, you probably see a variety of different structures within each general contractor. Do you prefer working with a mechanical estimator or a mechanical pre-construction professional, or even an MEP pre-construction professional within the GC, a specialist, or would you prefer to deal with a generalist that you can really, really add value to?
So I would say that this probably applies more to our pre-construction manager, Scott Tall, and I would say that his preference would be to work with an MEP person that understands the systems, so they're speaking the same language. And we tend to operate that way. Where many of the projects that we have, at the end of the day, we're talking back and forth with someone who really understands the mechanical systems and can identify with some of the issues that may be arising or some of the opportunities that we may have for us to bring value, and not thinking we're cutting costs, but actually, making sure that the customer is going to get the best system, and sometimes we're working with jobs that have zero kind of drawings at all, and we have a concept, and that's where we thrive. We have a concept, and we'll build that out based on our experiences, and understanding the type of job it is and what we've done and executed successfully on past projects. And so when we can bring that concept and then literally draw out the system and build it and then walk through that, and again, with that trust we have, can build that system in that way and creating value. And that's really the most important part. And so when you have someone that you're working with that understands that, that's really key for us. So we prefer to work with the folks who are more in the MEP inclined mindset, that understand our systems, that understand the value that we can bring. And again, not looking just to be a low number. That is not what we do. That is not our whole philosophy as a mechanical contractor. It's really to bring value. And so those are the type of jobs that we really want to chase.
Love it. Now I'm going to ask you a difficult question, Henry. What are the demands now that you see from the GC side? We obviously are looking for energy efficient buildings. We're looking for, they're demanding so much. What do you see now as the most difficult demand you're seeing from clients, and not even GCs, but direct from the client when it comes to mechanical, sorry?
When it comes to mechanical, I don't know if it might be in general in some ways. One of the things, so sustainability is big, with especially in Northern California, with going all electric is somewhat not sustainable because we don't have the infrastructure necessarily to support it. So trying to figure out ways to reduce that energy draw on the projects, and knowing that our clients are looking to be sustainable and being good citizens in that space to our world, to the environment. And so there are important things, but they also have to make sense. And sometimes the demands don't match the infrastructure. And,
Yeah.
and so we have to kind of share that information and here's what we can do as an alternative. Here's a way for us to address these particular issues when it comes to conservation, whether it's water or energy. And so it's challenging. And so again, when you can kind of spell out, okay, here's the scenarios that we have, here's what the realistic issues are in regards to the sustainability goals that you may have. Here's what we can do. Here's what's going to cost you. Because like anything, anything that you do that is going to help save the environment, and that's going to help create more sustainability, it does come with a premium. And so it's cost that we have to pass on because it costs us more, and so it's educating people, educating our clients and owners to understand those nuances so that there's no surprises. We try to mitigate that as best as possible to telegraph, hey, this is going to cost you more money. It's going to be great, but it's going to cost you more money. And at the end of the day, if that's going to get us out of the job, then let's be clear that this is not the path that we should take, And so you just have to paint that picture. And again, painting that picture with people who understand that makes it all better for us as well.
Brilliant. And cost, you mentioned it there. Do we see it leveling out from the suppliers and from your distributors? How are you finding that at the minute, Henry? And I'm going to ask you the crystal ball question. How do you see it playing out 2025?
Yeah, so it's definitely nothing like it was when COVID was running rampant around the world and costs were just incredible. You didn't know when you're going to get your equipment, and it was the cost was just was crazy. And so things have definitely settled. Shipping and equipment has definitely kind of settled out and balanced out. What we foresee the future, I think from a cost standpoint, we're looking, we used to use an escalation factor of 3.5%, and now we're maybe 4.5%, and so that's kind of a natural change. As far as our crystal ball and knowing where things are going to be, we don't know in a sense of like if there's going to be these tariffs. We don't think that's going to happen. We think it's going to be too much of a cost burden for those kind of things to factor out and play well within the industry, and we were believing that that's going to get kind of back down moving forward. But we plan for the worst, and being prepared for what happens, so that we can forecast that information as best we can to our clients. I receive a commodity report pretty much every month from internally from our company, and I share that with our clients, and it has everything that you would think of in regards to costs, what's affecting costs around the world, and what's streamlined down to what's happening with us here in the Bay Area or just in our country, in our divisions that we have. So those kind of things, we try to have information out there to share what's going on, what we think is happening, trying to prepare people what they might see. And at the end of the day, no one really knows, but we do our best to stay on top of the markets and understand what's driving costs down or up, and try to telegraph that to the people that work with us, so they'll at least have an idea.
Yeah, it seems to me collaboration is a big thing for you, Henry, and for the pre-con side. And maybe at Southland Industries, just it's in the DNA, it's the culture. Do you find that's what's making you so successful? That's what's bringing the clients back year after year?
At the end of the day, I would say yes, but at the end of the day, it's really about our execution, and I'd say flawless execution. Not every job we do, obviously, is perfect. But one of the things that we pride ourselves on is, one, we're going to stick through the job and get it done and do it to our best of our capabilities, and essentially delivering the promise. And the promise is a project that our end users, our clients are satisfied. The cost, the performance, the approach, all the things that we said we would do in an interview, that we did that. And if there's something that we fell down in, that we will fix that. We will make sure we address it. Because what we've learned is that our clients, not even our clients expect perfection, but when things happen on a job, it's now, what do you do then? I've been on a project where a sprinkler head was broken, and it was over a lab that could have created a lot of water damage. And you hear these sirens going off, but the one thing you also saw is a whole team of people rallying to the issue and fixing the issue. And so it's how we operate and function when there's an issue that I believe that's how we're remembered, and so if you go and seize that scenario and address that issue to the satisfactory level, that's how people remember you. That's how our clients say, hey, they had an issue, but they solved the problem. They didn't become a victim to it and point fingers and not address it. And that's what's really important and at every level, and so I really believe that Southland is one of the most progressive mechanicals out there is because we care about, one, internally our people. We want to give people training and information and knowledge to do better at their jobs every day. We want them to solve problems because at the end of the day, it's those individuals that are on the jobs, whether you're a project manager, a project executive, or a foreperson out there in the field, you are the commercial. You're the ones that people remember and how you conducted yourself. It doesn't matter what our website says about who we are. It's that person out in the field executing work in the trailer, 6 months, 2 years, 3 years with this client. Those are the people they're going to remember when we go say, hey, what's the next project look like? And be able to say that we solved their problems and our people were who we said they would be when it comes to challenges. That's really the commercial. That's really what wins work for us, is how we execute on a job and puts us in a position to say, I would love to work with this group of people or this company again because they actually do what they say they're going to do.
Yeah, but how do you recruit that? How do you get that culture within your company? Obviously, you can lead by example, but how do you, at the very beginning, when it's so difficult to find resources, how do you ensure that those people have got that instilled with them? Because I don't want to say everyone can kind of do a good interview, but it's really difficult to get the people that can actually go and action basically do what they say they're going to do.
Yeah, I think it's saying that the principle is similar for how we approach work, the type of work that we pursue. We're not pursuing every job out there. We have a very particular type of job that we want. We're not trying to be the cheapest because we don't believe that the low bid is necessarily the right bid. So we're very particular. And if we're very particular about the type of work that we want to pursue, because of the type of clients that we have, because of the expectations that we place on ourselves and others place on us, then we're going to be very selective with that same group of people who are going to execute that work. Regardless if you are from the union or you're from the op side, we want people that want to, again, think with curiosity, think differently, approach their work differently, willing to learn, willing to take in and say, hey, what if you could have a job that was flawless, how would that happen? What would you do to make that happen? And asking people questions like that. And then our leadership and just the training and the development that we put forth. It's an investment and it costs money, but it's important that if you don't train your people, what are you doing? How are you setting yourself up for success? How are you setting them up for success? We want independent thinkers that understand how to work on a team. And so it requires some training, it requires some discipline, it requires the investment of that work, again, which is not free. It requires people to be essentially like sharpening your tool when you're not on the job. And how are you getting prepared for what's next? It can't just be happenstance, it has to be deliberate. And so what I really love about our company is that we take the time to invest in our people. Obviously, safety is very important, but it goes beyond that. There's a mental well-being aspect as well. Suicide is rampant in construction, and no one is immune to it. And so we have to understand, why does that exist? What can we do to create better cultures in our company? And we do that by intentional training, by being deliberate, by hiring people that want to be holistic leaders, that understand the bottom line is critically important, but so are the people that work for us and how they go home every night to their families. So it's those types of things that sometimes they can be overlooked, sometimes Some companies may seem that it's not necessary. Just go do your job, and there's still a lot of that. But I love to, know that for Southland, that's not how we operate. We really care about our people. And again, we're not perfect, but we do care about our people, and we set ourselves up for success by investing in our people, whether that is training, whether it's assistance, and mentoring, and just really showcasing what it looks like, and understanding the value there, so that we can help cultivate that culture of curiosity and continue learning, educating yourself, improving on what you do, and so that you can be successful.
Yeah, it's amazing. I don't think people understand how much the people are the differentiator between all the different companies. Because I mean, generally we all use the kind of the same sort of technology stack, the same sort of resources. The finances are probably the same, but as you say, it's a finer detail in the execution. It's a finer detail in the costings, the planning, the communication. I couldn't agree more. And this kind of touches on and brings us full circle to your book called The Seven Principles. But one thing that in the book that you talk a lot about is mindset, that transformative mindset, when leaders empower their teams, and not just through action, not just through words, but actions. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, that transformative leadership, and the ability to convey a message that people actually want to stand behind, it's not easy to do. Excuse me. This is the hard part. This is the part where you can go and tell somebody to build widgets faster, and do these kind of things. But when it comes down to people knowing that you care about them, when it comes down to how to inspire a team, when it comes down to recognizing, you got some players that just aren't showing up the way that they used to, and you're not using a whip essentially, figuratively, to get people to be motivated. You're really creating leadership that is about cultivating relationships, respect, and really how do you honor those folks that do this work for us. That requires change first from that person individually, and so it's not something you can just go do and read a book and say, okay, I'm going to start doing this tomorrow. It's really about something that you begin to cultivate within yourself. You grow and develop. You care enough to make the adjustments. You see yourselves in the areas that need to be improved. So you have your own level of emotional intelligence where you know that, hey, I'm not where I should be. How do I grow and develop? What do I need to hear? And sometimes those lessons are very hard because you see yourself for who you really are, and so when you can get people to trust you, that means that you have done something to be trustworthy. And that requires something that is not just on a shelf. It's hard work and development of yourself, and hopefully, you work in an environment where people bring that, they value that. And that's where I say again, where Southland is set apart in that area, where we value that. We want to make sure that one, people have opportunities, that people grow and develop. These are all the things that happened with me. I mean, I got into my position because I was curious. I saw opportunities. No one said, go do that. It was, I saw it and said, hey, I want to do something about that because I feel like I have something to offer. And I did those things, and no one held me back. You have this kind of entrepreneurial, cultural, experience within the company where, hey, everyone has an opportunity. There's really not a no there. It's do you want to do it? Then go do it. And then you'll get some support and some help and alignment and where it should go and all those kind of things. But it first starts with the individual saying, this matters to me. Like individually, this matters to me, and I want to make a change. And those are the people that become your stars in a sense, that they really care to the level of, I'm not looking to be a star. I'm not looking for someone to say, attaboy. I'm looking for someone to just create an opportunity or a space for me to grow in an area that I have passion around, and that is exactly my story. And so I share that in my book because it's what I say is common sense is not common, and there are things that we can take for granted that everyone just knows because maybe people are doing it, but new folks coming in don't necessarily know that. And some folks who've been around a long time who are jaded, this industry can really make you jaded, and you see things done one way, and it's just this whole system that creates, failure and opposition and misalignment and dissension. You still have folks who care, and we want to continue to plug away at that and try to bring those layers of those bad habits or poor way of thinking to introduce to this industry, because we desperately need transformation, and it's going to happen one project at a time, one team at a time, one individual at a time. And we have to continue to keep pressing forward with that. And I'm very encouraged overall within our industry, because you have more people having conversations about this than you ever have before. And it requires a lot of courage, because it's not commonplace, and it doesn't come with that whole kind of macho kind of mentality. It's really about people who, hey, I don't know, but I'm going to try to figure it out. And we're getting to the point where we're okay with saying, I don't know, but I'm willing and I want to learn.
Brilliant. And you mentioned their transformation. Are you seeing on the mechanical side, in relation to technology and new ways of doing things, prefabrication, are you seeing it on your side as well? Are you seeing that clients now are demanding more innovation, more transformation, doing things a little bit different? They're more open to it on the general contractor side and the owner side, and even on the designer side?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We pride ourselves on always being on this cutting edge of industry when it comes to prefab and innovation and technology, and where it meets, the execution, it's paramount. It's a critical part of our business. It helps us to be efficient. It helps us with our safety factors and how we can be competitive. And so we're always looking for ways to not just about shaving costs, but to execute at a high level. And that requires all these different folks in the room. It's designers, because at that stage where we're a design build firm, so we're looking at whether we're the EOR of the job, we're the engineer of record, or we're assisting others in it. We want to bring that value and say, hey, here's some opportunities for us to save some costs by XYZ, and bringing that in the design level stage of the job really is where you can do a lot of important work there at that level, because those decisions being made there, and getting the minds churning on how you can implement different ways to execute with lean in mind, happens at that level, because then it's done in that stage, and then you have a group of people that are going to continue to look at those drawings and find even better ways to improve the process, and so if you can do it at that stage, you have the right team in the room that can bring that level of experience and lessons learned to say how we would execute, and whether it's, again, modularizing something, how you bring together several trades to put some structure together to eliminate steps, all these kind of things. So yeah, it's something that our owners are definitely having a high expectation of, and our GCs want to see, how we're going to execute that to that level. And internally, that's what we want to do. We want to figure out better ways to build this widget, better ways to execute. What steps can we remove that just don't bring value to the project? And it's always challenging. It's always something new, and it's just being open-minded and thinking like this, like what's possible. Come into the table with what's possible, not the mentality of, well, we've already done this before, this is how we're going to continue to do it. We can't have that kind of mindset. We have to have this curious, what is possible type mindset.
Love it. Love it. What a great way to finish, Henry. It's all about the mindset, the growth mindset, the transformative mindset. Listen, this has been absolutely brilliant. I know the audience will get loads from this. If there is anybody listening and think, you know what, Henry touched on a couple of things there that would like to kind of just explore a little bit more, where's the best place to get to you if they wanted to drop you a quick message or connect with you?
I'd say the best place is on LinkedIn. I'm out there in the world posting things all the time and trying to engage the community. And so you can find me, Henry Knott, on LinkedIn with Southland. And I look forward to anyone who has further questions. And want to continue to drive this industry forward.
Brilliant. Well, anybody listening, I will put in the show notes the LinkedIn profile of Henry, and you can click on the link and it'll bring you straight to it. Well, for finally, I want to wish you all the best during your presentation today. I think there's definitely maybe at least one more podcast for me and you to catch up. So maybe in 6-12 months we can dive into various other things as well. Lean construction was one of the things I wanted to touch on, but we can definitely catch up on that again.
Sounds great. Thanks for having me today. I appreciate it, Gareth.
Thanks, Henry.
Take care.